Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
So I wanted, before we get started, to let everyone know that I have a new podcast out, and it's called Meditations. If you like the Meditations segment of this current podcast, you'll like the Meditations podcast. It's nothing but 20 minutes of meditative sounds. And now, on with the podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caesar's Palace for 12 rounds of boxing. In the red corner, from Los Angeles, California, wearing the red trunks with the gold trim, weighing in at 125 pounds, the lightweight champion of the world, Danny Little Red Lopez. Well, Bill, our winners get a home theater receiver. That's right. Experience the full potential of high-definition video with this 72-channel digital home theater receiver from Yamaha. But wait, that's not all. They also get a 5.1-channel surround sound system from Mirage. With 5 palm-sized speakers and a compact subwoofer cube, the MX 5.1 brings you huge immersive sound with Mirage's omnipolar technology. All from the Spiegel catalog, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. And they're taking closer order as down the stretch they come. Mr. Hot Stuff has 3 lengths to make up with chocolate candy last. On the rail, take the points behind that gallant son with chocolate candy gaining on the outside. In the lead is Pioneer of the Nile being tackled by chocolate candy. They're neck and neck as they come to the wire. And Pioneer of the Nile holds off chocolate candy and wins the Santa Anita Derby. And now, on your feet, time to greet holder of 14 NBA titles, your home team, your Los Angeles Lakers. Number 3 at 6'8", 5th year out of UCLA, playing forward, Trevor Ariza. Starting at center, number 17 at 7 feet, 4th year out of St. Andrews High School, Andrew Bynum. And at guard, number 24, 6'6", 13th season out of Loyal Marion High School, Kobe Bryant.
Never forget the night of my senior prom. Night of my senior prom, I'm 18 years old. I'm at home putting on my tuxedo when my dad walked in the room. And he handed me a condom. Snuck it to me in a handshake. So fucking gross. Then he looks me right in the eyes and he says, "Anthony, do you have any questions?" I said, "Yeah, Dad. Do you have one that's still in the wrapper?"
Good morning. It's Wednesday, Apollo Wednesday, June the 18th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have the headlines, patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, and Apollo. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. And now the headlines for Wednesday, June the 18th. Ukraine's parliament passed a law on Wednesday to allow Ukrainians to have multiple citizenships in an attempt to ease a demographic crisis worsened by Russia's war and to enhance ties with the country's diaspora. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, Iran won't surrender or accept impositions. For the first time in history, a photo of the sun's south pole has been obtained. Defense Minister Katz says the IDF targeted the Iranian regime's internal security headquarters, the main arm of the dictator's oppression. Pete Hegseth testifies at Senate hearing as Iran-Israel conflict escalates. And those were the headlines for Wednesday, June the 18th. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the political corner.
I'm not going to lie. I 100% stand with Trump. Like, what's wrong with protecting our borders and making sure that our country is safe? Like, I see nothing wrong with that. Like, don't you want a president in office that is literally looking out for the American people and making sure that where we live is safe? Like, to me, it's common sense. It's not something that's too hard to comprehend. Like, I stand with Trump all day long. I remember it was times where I would be sitting in rooms and people would be talking so bad about him, and I'm like, bruh, if only y'all knew I'm a MAGA supporter all day long, and what the man is doing is common sense. Like, hey.
And that was the political corner. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the patriotic short.
These U.S. troops are pinned down and call for an A-10 Warthog. Whilst under enemy fire, they must speak to the pilot and tell him where to fire.
Copy, Hog 01. Night Owl, Hog 01 has the white smoke in sight. Low pass, shore force confirmed that's the enemy. Hog 01, copies, repositioning. Understand anything in that building is the target.
Hog 01, put guns on that building with smoke. All friendlies are to the north. Copy.
Hog 01, copies all. Hog 01 is friendlies in sight, building in sight, south to north, run in hot.
That's clear. You're cleared high. Go high. Hog, be advised, we are still taking fire. Request another gun run on that target again.
Hog 01 copies, confirm another south to north, run in.
That's a good copy. South to north, run in.
Night Owl, Hog 01, friendlies in sight, target in sight, in from the south.
In from the south, you are cleared high, cleared high.
And that was the patriotic short. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, time to get motivated.
When everything goes dark in your life, when those people who you thought would be there for you forever suddenly leave you, when your dreams fall apart in front of your face, and anyone you come across tells you you're not going to make it, when it seems like things couldn't get any worse, I need you to dig deep. I need you to find that power deep within you that won't be denied.
When all hell is breaking loose in your life, you got to take a stand. You got to stand up against all the negativity that's consuming you and surrounding you. And you got to create a new reality for yourself. You have got to fight for a different outcome for you and your dreams.
This is not the end. This is your new beginning. You have the power to change your story. No one and no obstacle can take that away from you.
A champion isn't made when things are easy. Champions are forged through fire, through defeat, through the struggle of having to deal with the worst imaginable and not running away from it, standing up and taking it on. You don't have to always be jacked up and excited about it. Sometimes all you gotta do is outlast it.
You just gotta keep moving forward. If you're feeling hurt, keep moving. If you're crying, keep moving. If you don't know what's gonna happen, keep moving. I just need you to keep the momentum going and not sit down and feel sorry for yourself. You might not see it right now, but all this crap you're dealing with now, you're gonna be glad it happened. You'll feel fortunate that it all went bad, because what you're gonna learn in this process is that these situations are going to make you into an unstoppable beast. You don't become a beast when all is going well. There has to be pressure. There has to be pain. There has to be darkness.
No matter how bad things get, you gotta keep fighting. It's about taking a stand, standing courageously, daringly, and boldly against the odds.
No matter how dire the situation, no matter how insurmountable the obstacles, you keep moving forward. You keep walking toward your dreams, no matter what. This relentless pursuit, this unyielding drive is what separates the victors from the vanquished.
When the world tells you it's over, when it seems like there's no way out, that's when you fight the hardest.
That's when you prove to yourself and everyone else that you have what it takes. You show that no matter how dark it gets, you will find a way to shine.
It's not about the intensity of your battles, but the strength of your response. It doesn't matter how cautious or careful you are. Life will always hit you in the face. It's going to hurt like hell. But the question is, how hard can you hit back? How hard can you fight back? How much of a fight are you willing to put up for your dreams?
Because if you really care about it like you say you do, you don't fold at the first, second, third, or even the 22nd time something or someone tries to knock you down and stop you on your path to greatness. No, you keep destroying everything in your path until you get exactly what it is you want. And you stop at nothing to reach it.
Whenever you feel negative, whenever you feel your life is getting tough, I want you to say, I'm responsible. I'm responsible for my life. I'm responsible for what happens. I can't change the past, so I'm not going to spend a single second worrying about what has happened. I'm going to become so busy working on my future and my goals that I don't have time to think about the past.
You get so laser focused that you get very specific on what you're doing to make progress. You know exactly what you're doing on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. You know precisely how to make your situation better every day of the week.
You turn your tragedy into triumph, because that's what winners do. They don't just dream. They do. Winners take their plans, their goals, their visions, and turn them into action. They're not paralyzed by fear or doubt. They're propelled by determination and drive. Winners don't fall apart. Winners don't give up. Winners don't quit. Winners execute.
I've always thought of life as like this one-way street, and you head down it, and as you do, it sort of disappears behind you. You can't go back once you started this damn journey. You can only go forward. So you got two choices.
What would you say to men who think therapy is a sign of weakness?
When you have a proven...
Go forward. So you got two choices. One, you get scared, you give up, and then you burn up. And the second one, you say, fuck it! Fuck it! Fuck fear! And you barrel through it. And when you come out on the other side, I guarantee you're going to be stronger than you ever thought possible.
I didn't come this far to just break down and lose now. I'm a winner. I'm going to win. I'll do whatever the hell it takes to get through this.
Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
Hold on. I don't care how long it takes you to finish school. Hold on. I don't care how long it takes you to pass that bar exam. So what, you didn't pass it on the first time? You keep going. You keep studying. You keep writing. You keep singing. You keep rapping. You keep boxing. You keep fighting. You keep dribbling. You just keep on keeping on. And if you persevere, trouble don't last always. Every storm that's come, it will pass. I just need you to keep walking toward it. I don't need you thinking about it no more. You're doing too much thinking. You analyze it too much. You're talking yourself out of it. I don't know if this is going to work. I tried and it didn't work. I just need you to keep moving. I need you to make up in your mind that the only way you can lose is if you quit. I just need you to keep going.
Every one of my successes is stacked on top of failure. Failure is just another peg in the ladder for me to go higher. And some of you in this room today, you need to change your mind because some of you are thinking about giving up because you're in a season of failure. But just because you failed doesn't mean that God doesn't have a bright future in store for you. It is always too soon to quit.
I can't quit. I can't stop. I can't get tired. I can't give up. I can't give in. I can't. Why? My mama counting on me. My wife is counting on me. When you ain't got nothing left in your tank, you got to think about the people in your life that you're doing this for. And then if you could think about them, you could go one more mile. You could go one more day at work. And when you're doing it for somebody else, when you like that lion, if I don't grind, if we don't grind, if I don't grind, they don't eat. I I wish I could tell you tired, go take a break. I wish I could tell you it's going to get easier. I wish I could tell you that if you just keep going, it's going to get lighter. The weight is going to get lighter. I wish I could tell you that, but that's not the truth. The truth is you got to find something within. You got to find something within, and that's got to push you, and that's got to elevate you, and that's got to drive you, and that's got to move you. And when you find out what your why is, when you find your why, you don't hit snooze no more. When you find your why, you find a way to make it happen.
But none of this is ever going to happen if you quit.
Failure gives you two choices. You stay down or you get up. Well, I'm up and I am fired up because I have figured it out. And I can stay down or I can get my ass up. And I'm in the getting up business.
We all want to be a beast, but do you know what a beast is? A beast is someone who can go through hell and be grateful that their legs are working. A beast is someone who's lost everything, but is grateful for the opportunity to get everything back and get even more. A beast is someone who can hit rock bottom and can say, Roger that. I'm going to harness this. It is only up from here. I'm going to come back even stronger.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, meditation. And that was a little bit of meditation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the Daily Stoic.
You can't touch me. If you lay violent hands on me, you'll have my body, but my mind will remain with Stilpo. Zeno, quoted in Diogenes Laertius, Lives of the Eminent Philosophers, 7.1.24. Zeno is not claiming magic powers, but simply that while his body can be victimized, philosophy protects his mind, cultivated under his teacher Stilpo, with an inner fortress whose gates can never be broken from the...
And that was the Daily Stoic. And now, His Excellency, Bishop Robert Barron.
There's only one real sadness in life, not to be a saint. There's only one sadness. You say, oh gosh, I'm sad because I didn't achieve this goal. I didn't get the money I wanted, didn't get the career I wanted, didn't get the wife or husband I wanted. Well, okay, but those aren't real sadnesses. The only real sadness is not to be the person God wanted you to be. If you let that become the governing principle of your life, everything will change.
And that was His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron. And now the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Quote, in Western Europe, in the pre-industrial Middle Ages, man's life expectancy was 30 years. In the 19th century, Europe's population grew by 300%, which is the best proof of the fact that for the first time in human history, industry gave the great masses of people a chance to survive. If it were true that a heavy concentration of industry is destructive in human life, one would find life expectancy declining in the more advanced countries, but it's been rising steadily. Anyone over 30 years of age today, give a silent thank you to the nearest, grimiest, sootiest smokestacks you can find, unquote. And that was Ayn Rand from the chapter The Anti-Industrial Revolution from the book The Return of the Primitive. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, psychopathy.
The dark triad personality. Some people are born manipulators. The dark triad consists of narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Narcissists crave admiration, Machiavellians are master manipulators, and psychopaths lack empathy. Together, these traits create dangerously charming individuals who can easily exploit others. Do you know someone with these traits? Share your story in the comments. Thanks for watching. And if you want to...
And that was psychopathy. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Stu Varney.
Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow. Stuart Varney takes it away with Varney and Company. Stu.
All right. Good morning, Maria, and good morning, everyone. President Trump makes a two-word demand of Iran: unconditional surrender. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini responded, Iran will not surrender. It's a standoff. Iran launches missiles at Israel, but they are firing off fewer every day. Israel has extended its evacuation order to an industrial area of Tehran and continues to strike and attack military sites. President Trump is deciding what to do. He says he won't kill Khomeini, at least for now, his words. He says, we now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. So, is he close to sending in American B-2s with bunker-busting bombs? That's what is under consideration right now. If there's much anxiety on the market, it's not that apparent. The price of oil has reached $75 a barrel, but that's hardly a spike. Gold, hovering right around $3,400 an ounce, is actually a fraction lower today. Stocks, fairly firm. The Dow Industrials, pre-market that is, up 2 points, S&P up 3, NASDAQ up 29 points. Pre-market, reasonably firm. Bitcoin, the latest quote we have is 104.5. Interest rate, though, that's is interesting. Interest rates are trending lower. The 10-year yield's well under 4.4% now. The 2-year, well under 4% even, 3.95. Politics. Some division among MAGA supporters about America's possible involvement in Iran. Charlie Kirk, Steve Bannon, Senator Rand Paul opposed. One Democrat is a big supporter, John Fetterman. He says, I really hope the president finally does bomb and destroy the Iranians, end quote. The Federal Reserve reveals its thinking on interest rates today. A rate cut is unlikely, but everyone will listen to Powell to see what he has to say about Iran and the price of oil. He could move the market. That's this afternoon. On the show today, Rhode Island proposes a tax on underutilized mansions. Taylor Swift has an estate there, and if the tax were applied to her, it would cost her an extra $136,000. Dave Portnoy, he's a fan, and he has a couple of mansions around the country. How does he feel? He will be on the show today. And we will bring you a case of immigrant ingratitude. Ilhan Omar came to America as a refugee from Africa. She's done well, she has money, and she's a member of Congress. But now she describes America as one of the worst countries. Why do the Democrats keep her in their party? Wednesday, June 18th, 2025.
And that was Varney and Company. And again, all these stories are simply for profit so that Fox News can make more and more money. They hang on to stories long past their due date because they want to wring out every last nickel out of them. Non-profit news now. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now this is an article from the American Conservative called "The Neocons Are Working Hard to Co-opt MAGA." I thought this was interesting. As the military conflict between Israel and Iran raged Monday, the Republican Senator Tom Cotton wrote on X that, quote, President Trump created and shaped the Make America Great Again movement and defined American first foreign policy, unquote. Quote, he's absolutely right that Iran's terrorist regime cannot be trusted with a nuclear weapon, unquote, Cotton added. Cotton wanted people to know that the true definition of America first is for the United States to be part of yet another regime change war. Makes perfect sense, right? Not for anyone who's actually been paying attention. Kelly Vlahos, editorial director for the Responsible Statecraft, replied to Cotton, this is not America first. Cotton co-opted this language when he wet his finger and put it up to the wind and figured out MAGA base was done with neocons. He's a fake. Vlahos is right. It was just a month ago that President Donald Trump buried the neoconservatives during his speech in Saudi Arabia. The so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. No modern presidency was more associated with nation building than that of George W. Bush, a legacy Trump vehemently rejected early in the 2016 GOP presidential debates. The president said next, quote, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits like those who spent trillions and trillions of dollars failing to develop Baghdad, so many other cities, unquote. Despite what is transpiring right now between Israel, Iran, and the United States, it was Trump's Saudi speech that most clearly laid out for a global audience what MAGA is supposed to look like on the world stage. On foreign policy, that vision is what 77 million Americans voted for in November and what polls show a majority of Republicans want. Even if this is not what Trump seems to be doing right now, it's one thing for realists and non-interventionists to question whether Trump is going back on his word. And it's quite another to pretend this president never said those words. But from a neocon perspective, why wouldn't Cotton and his friends try to use the current Where is it? There we go. Current zeitgeist to reorient Republicans toward that old-time religion of Bush-Cheney GOP. They're certainly working hard to do so. The neocon fanatic Mark Levine went on a long screed Monday about what is real MAGA and fake MAGA. Real MAGA, in his opinion, means everyone that's for war for Israel first. Fake MAGA for him means conservatives who might dare to put their own country first. Levine constantly attacks Tucker Carlson, whose conservative voice, audience, and influence has arguably eclipsed Levine's at this point, precisely because Carlson is urging Trump not to repeat the foreign policy mistake of Iraq in Iran. Levine also bashed another reliable anti-war voice, Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, saying she is not MAGA. Not surprisingly, the 82-year-old former Republican Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, was all about a U.S. war with Iran on X as well. The Cato Institute's Brandon Buck shared Gingrich's post asking, "Do you ever feel like you're the only person who hasn't been in a 25-year coma?" The American Conservatives Executive Director, Kurt Mills, shared Gingrich's obtuse observations as well, adding, "Old guard baby boomer conservatives, the greatest threat to the success of the Trump political project." Not even close, he added. Through continued and unbroken support, the United States and the Trump administration are aiding and abetting Israel's actions against Iran already. If this president manages to stumble into a full U.S. war with Iran on Israel's behalf, everything he ever said about ending endless wars will have been for naught. As Iraq will forever be W's primary legacy, it's as likely Trump's Iran war will become his. This is exactly what neoconservatives want most from this Republican administration, oblivious ideologues who still see no fault in what George W. Bush and Dick Cheney did. They would very much like a repeat of what Bush Cheney did and are aching for Donald Trump to give it to them. He might. If so, it would not be the fulfillment of MAGA, as neocons are now so desperate to pretend, but a complete repudiation of what Donald Trump promised it would be. And I think a very simple situation here when it comes to foreign policy. The true conservative foreign policy is, number one, to get rid of nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons. And that's what the war with Iran is all about. Whether or not Iran is going to be allowed to get a nuke, and it can't happen. Whatever we have to do to make sure that Iran never, ever, ever gets a nuclear weapon is what we have to do. Now, the second part of true conservative foreign policy is we don't commit troops to battle, and that includes airplanes, anything else, without a declaration of war. What made W's neocon fantasies so destructive is that he committed troops to battle without a declaration of war. That's wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. So if Donald Trump wants to go to war with Iran, go to Congress and ask for a declaration of war. And if the American people get behind it and say yes, then fine. But until then, forget it. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, what does the phrase, "if you're explaining, you're losing," mean? This was said by Ronald Reagan, speaking of political campaigns. From the perspective of your audience, if you have to explain yourself, you come off looking desperate to convince. As a consequence, you lose the high ground. From a more philosophical perspective, if you have a clear conscience and strong conviction towards the positions you take, your values, truth, and direction, you don't need the opinions or consent of others. As a consequence, you don't need to explain yourself. However, if you yourself are not convinced of the validity and truth of your position, or you can't fully justify your choices, then you continue to expel words, words, words in an attempt to create the illusion of certainty. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now from MSNBC, is an article, and it's an opinion piece, actually labeled it as an opinion piece. How about that? Trump immigration deportation polls. The headline is, "These new polls prove Trump isn't untouchable on immigration." And whenever the spotlight is on the cruelty and excesses of Trump's mass deportation campaign, Americans like his immigration policies less. So right there, they give you a preview of what's to come. I haven't read the article. I'm not going to bother to read the article because I already know what they're going to do. This is a power piece. The left likes to use words as weapons as a way of wielding power. One of the ways they do that, and they do it basically using words to psychologically bully and intimidate people like me. And the way they do that, one of the ways they do it is through surveys and polls. And by claiming that these surveys and polls represent people that they do not, in fact, actually represent. Polls and surveys only represent those polled or those surveyed, nobody else. And as long as I remember that, they're not going to be able to fool me. They're not going to be able to bully or intimidate me. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now from a book that's called Good Inside. What's the opposite of understanding? For this argument's sake, it's convincing. Convincing is the attempt to prove a singular reality, to prove that only one thing is true. Convincing is an attempt to be right, and as a result make the other person wrong. It rests on the assumption that there's only one correct viewpoint. And then my question is this supposed to be convincing? Further, convincing has one goal in mind, being right. And here's the unfortunate consequence of being right. The other person feels unseen and unheard, at which point most people become infuriated and combative, because it feels as if the other person does not accept your realness or worth. Feeling unseen and unheard makes connection impossible. Understanding two things are true and convincing one thing is true are diametrically opposed ways of approaching other people, so a powerful first step in any interaction is to notice which mode you're in. When you're in one thing is true mode, you're judgmental of and reactive to someone else's experience because it feels like an assault on your own truth. As a result, you will seek to prove your own point of view, which in turn makes the other person defensive because they need to uphold the realness of their experience. In one thing is true mode, exchanges escalate quickly. Each person thinks they're arguing about the content of the conversation when in fact they're trying to defend that they are a real, worthy person with a real, truthful experience. And again, is this convincing? Back in a minute. Thank you. So, thought on these riots. First of all, the interesting thing with these riots, there's a lot of people. I saw an article here. It says, let's see, about now it's a crackdown on behalf of business. America and what 250 years may mean. Can anyone give me a convincing argument that we're not living through the end of America? And sure, it's easy. It's all vocabulary that makes it seem as though things are worse than they really are. Makes it seem as though things are just happening randomly. So that's part of it. And what happened, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and what went on in the 60s and 70s makes this look like a cakewalk. The rioters today, they're not willing to make any type of a sacrifice at all. They only go out and riot after work and on weekends because they expect to have their cake and eat it too. They bring umbrellas and helmets and smartphones to the revolution. They film everything that's going on. They videotape. It's actually a film, but videotaping everything that's going on. They are and we're supposed to be afraid of these people. They're supposed to strike fear into us. These are the people that are at the tip of the spear that are supposed to be creating the worldwide revolution to usher in socialist paradise. These whiny, complaining folks who really only know how to do is get in people's way, sit in front of cars, block traffic. Really? That's it? They don't go out and, like in the 60s and 70s, we had homegrown terrorist groups that were attacking military installations, bombing police stations. And then today, if some Starbucks reject dares to go out and stand in the middle of the street, we start shaking and trembling that the whole country is falling apart? Really? I don't think so. Again, things are much better today than they were back in the 60s and 70s. First of all, with the 60s and 70s, all of the things that are being done today have already been done. We've seen it all. The left has done everything that there is to do. Occupy. It used to be that they occupied the dean's office at a college. Then it became Occupy Wall Street. Then it was Occupy City Hall, and then that literally pooped out. And so now they're back to wandering around in the streets with signs, screaming and yelling and honking their horns or whatever. Big deal. We've seen it before. It's not intimidating. It's not bullying. It's not going to get these protesters anywhere. They haven't made any inroads into creating a revolution or any positive difference in our society in any way, shape, or form. A lot of the protests and whatnot of the 60s and 70s gave way to legislation from Congress and other places, civil rights bills, environmental bills, anti-pollution bills, etc. The protesters of today have created nothing. There's nothing coming out of Congress, not in this administration, not in previous administrations, in response to what these knuckleheads are doing. So they're wasting their time. They're wasting our time, and that's the way they should be treated. They're insignificant, and we should pay them as little attention and as little respect as we possibly can. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni.
Lo so, oggi è il giorno, l'esame di maturità. Avete dormito poco, avete 1000 pensieri, siete pronti. Perché dietro di voi ci sono anni di studio, impegno, fatica e anche tanti sogni. Fate un bel respiro, arrivate a testa alta, date il massimo, siate fieri di voi stessi. Vi mando un grande in bocca al lupo, forza ragazzi, siete il nostro orgoglio.
And that was Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, German Chancellor Merz.
Ist das nicht sehr verlockend, dass die Israelis jetzt die Drecksarbeit machen für ein Regime, das sehr viele in der Welt als einen wirklich großen Störfaktor wahrnehmen?
Frau Zimmermann, ich bin Ihnen dankbar für den Begriff Drecksarbeit. Das ist die Drecksarbeit, die Israel macht für uns alle. Wir sind von diesem Regime auch betroffen. Dieses Mullah-Regime hat Tod und Zerstörung über die Welt gebracht. Mit Anschlägen, mit Mord und Totschlag, mit Hisbollah, mit Hamas am 7. Oktober 2023 in Israel. Das wäre ohne das Regime in Teheran niemals möglich gewesen. Ich kann nur sagen, größten Respekt davor, dass die israelische Armee den Mut dazu gehabt hat, die israelische Staatsführung den Mut dazu gehabt hat, das zu machen. Wir hätten sonst möglicherweise Monate und Jahre weiter diesen Terror dieses Regimes gesehen und dann möglicherweise noch mit einer Atomwaffe in der Hand.
And that was German Chancellor Merz. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Candace.
Je reprends parce que je suis tunisienne et c'est impossible pour moi de faire des stories en 1 minute. Donc, comme disait ma sœur Emmanuelle comme un soleil, concernant la collection suprême absolue du 19h, oui. La claque, quand tu la prends à 14h, c'est la même à 16h. Exactement. Vous avez compris ce que je veux dire? Donc, nous, on a tous compris. On n'est pas pressé. On n'est pas pressé, tac, tac, tac. C'est-à-dire, faites un kiff absolu. De toute manière, ce sera toujours la même chose. Donc, voilà, on en est.
Comment ça sera toujours la même chose?
Non, dans le sens où tu prends toujours des tannés. Il faut que tu sois au courant qu'à chaque fois, c'est tac.
Ah, d'accord.
Tac.
Tu fais bien de préciser, ma grande.
Je reprends parce que...
And that was Candace. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Apollo.
Chapter 17. And then on launch day, it worked. The stages for the first flight of the Saturn V began arriving at the Cape in August of 1966, even before the fire. The third stage, the S-4B, arrived by air in a special bulbous plane called the Super Guppy. The S-4B was the only stage that would arrive by air. Indeed, the other 2 stages couldn't arrive even by ground. They were too big to be transported by either truck or train, so they were barged in. The S-1C from the big plant built especially for Apollo at Michoud, Louisiana, and the S-2 from North American's facility at Seal Beach, California. On September 12, 1966, Ike Rigel, Patron's right-hand man for launch vehicle operations, watched as the S-1C stage of the Saturn V arrived on the barge Poseidon at the Saturn unloading facilities on the Banana River. Teams of technicians swarmed over the S-1C, checking to make sure that none of its elaborate wrappings and protections had been damaged during transit. The sole specialized task of the men Rigel watched was to meet Saturn and Apollo hardware when it arrived at the Cape and see that it was safely transported to the O&C building for the spacecraft, or the VAB for the Saturn. Only about 10 years earlier, Rigel reflected, he and a dozen or so others in Kurt Debus's launch team had done the whole thing themselves, from loading the rocket up in Huntsville to the launch itself. A couple of them would stay with the Redstone as it snaked its way down through the little country towns of Alabama and Georgia on a long Army flatbed truck. The rest of the group would stow the launch consoles in the trunks of their cars and drive down to the Cape where they would meet the Redstone, check it out, launch it, and go home. But it had been a different kind of bird in those days. 4 men could stand at the base of a Redstone and join hands around it. Now, Rigel stood beside the S-1C lying on its side, his eyes at the level of the exhaust nozzles of engines 1 and 2. Engines 3 and 4 were 2 stories above his head. NASA's official designation for George Miller's audacious first-time all-up test was AS-501. 5 for the launch vehicle, 01 denoting the number of the flight. Within NASA, the flight was being called simply 501. To the public, the forthcoming flight was known as Apollo 4. Apollo people refer to the manned flights simply by the sequence number known to the public. For the rest of the book, a capitalized, spelled-out number will be our way of mimicking that custom. Thus, 8 will mean Apollo 8, for example. As for why the first flight in the Apollo series was Apollo 4, the Grissom cruise flight was AS-204, 4th Apollo flight on a Saturn II. After the fire, at the widow's request, Apollo 1 was reserved for the flight that never took place. Then Lowe suggested retroactively naming the 3 unmanned Apollo Saturn II flights Apollo 1A, Apollo 2, and Apollo 3, respectively. While that was being considered, AS-501 was named Apollo 4. Subsequently, NASA headquarters decided not to rename the earlier flights after all. 1. The S-1C was taken first to the low bay of the VAB, where the components that would become inaccessible when the Saturn was stacked were examined and tested. After the test conductors from launch vehicle operations were satisfied that the first stage was ready, it was moved into the high bay, where lines were attached from the crane far overhead, and the S-1C was slowly lifted into place aboard the mobile launcher. Later, the second stage, the S2, went through the same preliminary checkout in the low bay. On February 23, 1967, they stacked the two stages, an operation that epitomized the extremes of large and small in the Cape's work. First, the S2, 90 feet long, was lifted by crane 280 feet into the air. Then it was settled down onto the top of the S1C with a precision measured in millimeters and ounces. The crane operators were trained to lower the hook with such delicacy that the hook could be stopped after it was touching the object below, but before it exerted even the pressure that would crack a raw egg. Or at least that's the story that the people at the Cape love to tell. They never tried it with real eggs. Once the two stages were aligned, it took a team of engineers and technicians 8 hours to join the S1C and the S2. The two stages were joined not with welds, but with pins. 3 12-inch pins at 120-degree intervals around the periphery of the stage, and 216 1.5-inch high-strength fasteners at 6-inch intervals. This process was repeated for the third stage, the S4B. Then came the tests of the assembled launch vehicle's electrical networks, fire detection, telemetry, tracking, gyroscopes, onboard computers, pumps, engines, transducers, valves, cables, plugs, and hydraulic lines. There were 456 such tests altogether, and they took weeks. Just how many weeks depended on how things went. In the case of 501, a new vehicle with birthing pains, the tests took almost 4 months. In the ONC building, the command and service module for the first Saturn V flight, the spacecraft 017 that Joe Bobick had examined with such indignation after the fire, was undergoing its own exhaustive tests. On June 20th, 1967, 5 months after the fire, spacecraft 017 was gingerly loaded into its specially designed cradle, no more plywood and mattresses, and transported from the ONC building to the VAB, where it was mated to the top of the stack. For the first time, there was now a complete Apollo-Saturn flight article. The tests and the inspections in the VAB went on for another 2 months. By now, the test conductors were checking to see how the components and subsystems of the launch vehicle, spacecraft, and ground support equipment worked together. Suppose that at the moment of launch, one of the umbilical tower's 9 swing arms failed to disconnect. Could the vehicle shut down safely? Answering that question required 10 separate tests. Suppose that the hold-down arms failed to release. Another set of tests. Were the hundreds of wires connecting the 3 stages correctly joined? Weeks of tests. Was each pin among the hundreds in the umbilical's electrical interfaces connected to the correct socket within the vehicle? More tests. Slowly, laboriously, the verification seals and the sign-offs accumulated as each of the thousands of items was checked off the list.
And that was Apollo. And by, let's see here, Charles Murray and Catherine Bly Cox. Back in a minute. Thank you. And this is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that feminism is power for men.